And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition here of the Missi podcast with yours truly, Charles Prodigy Richey. As we are in day number 3 of practice for the second straight week of training camp at Heinz Field, we got the coverage here brought to you by the Missi podcast. Report on the last 2 days, and especially today. As today, it was helmets only day, as reported by Mike Tomlin. He interacted with Missi Matthews and the media following today's practice. And so far, liking the energy so far. Yeah, if you guys want, feel free and be part of the Missi podcast. If you guys want to call in, you guys can. The phone lines are open. You could definitely dial it into the show at 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. I'll be glad to take any and all questions for today's show and any comments you have going into this year's season right now. And it just seems like it's a lot of good energy flowing for the time being. I mean, a lot of, hype, I guess you could say, for right now. But just having it for the first time in Heinz Field as opposed to St. Vincent College, you could definitely tell right now everyone's pretty amped up right now. And as the NFL season has been marching forward, there's been no slowdown in any progress. I mean, of course, with exception of a few teams around the league deciding to opt out of the season little by little. And we're getting ready to get into this a little bit more here. But I like to think that for right now, I mean, one of the guys who we mentioned last, who was on the injury, who had minor injuries, don't forget, a few days ago, remember that was a report by Mike Tomlin. That was Chris Wormley and James Washington, who had minor injuries. And Chris Wormley is more like a lower body injury, but Marquise Pouncey was excused due to personal reasons. As reported yesterday by Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports on yesterday's non-participants in practice, who joined that group of men I just mentioned just a moment ago. Those guys include quarterback Joe Hayden, tight end Eric Ebron. Then you also had on there your offensive lineman, David DeCastro, and Alejandro Villanueva for the time being. He was there yesterday, but he was not in pads as Ben was. And Ben, I mean, one interesting quote, so too, I was hearing from Mark Caboli, kind of describes it like Dan Marino-like. I mean, and his accuracy seems to be somewhat decent so far. I mean, not as bad. But I definitely feel like for right now, I mean, a lot of players are excited just to be around Ben Roethlisberger, considering what he's had to go through, just missing the season of last year. And in some ways, like they always say in sports, I mean, when you have one of your star players injured, missing a significant length of time, some people will look at it as when you do get your guy back, it's almost like you've made a trade for someone to put you over the top. And I'm not saying that's going to necessarily be the case for right now with Ben. But I got to believe right now, I mean, this guy, I mean, he seems to be in a great spot right now. I mean, I think this is probably the most motivated and the happiest presence I felt in Ben Roethlisberger in a long time. Probably more so because he just finally got a wake-up call, just have your season end so short. And the thing is, too, I mean, this guy right now, I mean, when you look at the Steelers at the end of the day, I mean, we always had that biggest fear of any team. I mean, what happens in a situation if you lose your guy throughout significant length? I mean, how do you find a way to bounce back and to keep marching forward? I think those are definitely a lot of things that will continue to linger. However, I just feel, I mean, this is he's felt more happier and relaxed and at peace with himself a long time and trying to look and pick back up where he left off 2 seasons ago. I mean, basically, when you saw him as best. I mean, yeah, he threw for 5,000 yards, and I gotta believe right now. I mean, one of the things if I'm like the quarterback coach, Matt Canada, of course you got the offensive coordinator too, Randy Fichtner. What's gonna be the game plan with Ben Roethlisberger when he's like gonna be like quarterbacking? Is there gonna be any type of like a pitch count on this guy as far as like controlling the number of times he's gonna be passing the game, or do they still give him that benefit of the doubt? I mean, you've been with us for such a long time. They got trust in the guy. I just tend to see how that's going to be playing out in the season, and how much of a leash I think the coach staff is willing to give him. I mean, surely, I mean when you hear guys like Joe Hayden mentioning that the defense they got, and they really believe they could do something special this year with what they got, as long as Ben Roethlisberger's out there, including with the offense they got. I mean, they got a team that could be real good for this season. And I just got to believe, I mean, these are the moments right now. I mean, I just think for Ben Roethlisberger now, I mean, aside from practicing with his teammates, getting back into live action, how is he going to react? How is he going to be, like, keeping himself on his feet and not having any sort of intimidation when it comes time for that? I mean, what's going to be like his overall motive as far as like when he's going to be actually on the field and quarterbacking his team and others as we take a look at it for right now. And we will definitely see what happens for the moment, as we got a lot for right now that is about ready to unfold. But I do believe right now, this is a team right now where the energy is hyped. Everyone is amped up. They are ready to pick back where they left off and make sure they know, I mean, what they got special, and to keep everybody accountable, and know what they need to do as a man to get this season in. So let's continue to stay on track here on the opening drive right now. As we also looked at it too, this came from Dale Lally, DK Pittsburgh Sports. Yeah, guard Kevin Dotson and Dax Raymond both got evaluated yesterday. Dotson suffered a knee injury and Raymond had an ankle injury. And Mike Tomlin, on those injuries, he said that regarding Dotson and Raymond, appear to be short-term instead of long-term on injuries, end quote. So, I mean, that's a good thing right now. I mean, you're getting the hiccups out of your way, what you would expect out of camp. I won't be surprised we see like a little bit of like guys get a little amped up with each other, maybe like a few fights or like scuffles, but just competitive scuffles, if you will, and try to keep this momentum going. Because right now, I mean, the sad thing about it is too, and even Danny Smith was speaking with Missi Matthews and everything, when you look at everything that they had to be doing as far as missing the preseason games, he was saying, this was his response, all 32 teams have the same problem. We're trying to simulate many game-like situations during practice, just getting everyone on off the field to get everyone ready. He continues to go on to say, keep promoting him as a wide receiver so he can sneak up on some people on special teams, referring to Chase Claypool. And Chase Claypool, I mean, he definitely seems like he has plans for him as well. And I would not be surprised if he gets put into that role, if he does something on special teams. I mean, will they have him on the kick returns? Still leave Deontay Johnson on the punt returns? I would be interested to see that. I mean, how much confidence they got in this guy real quick. I mean, Joel Hayden even talked nice and highly of Claypool, how he's just a guy who has just been quiet, I mean, throughout this training camp, and has been learning and asking questions and just going about his routine. And I think that's very good right now. I mean, this guy who is definitely very green and trying to be like a sponge for right now, trying to soak up everything he can from his teammates. How to get better, I'm sure. But I mean, just his quickness and I mean, one of the key things too, he did not allow Joe Hayden to get the ball out of his hands when Ben Roethlisberger threw that corner touchdown to him in the end zone that he made a leaping grab for. So I mean, that's definitely a very positive trait in and of itself. Because Claypool, I mean, again, I mean, you're going back to this realm right now where we last left off with Martavis Bryant right now. You got big target receiver here, once again, just like you did with Plaxico Burress. Who's going to be like more so the red zone target guy now? I got to believe when they're trying to get some points on the board or they start getting closer instead of long distance touchdowns, I got to believe Chase Claypool is definitely going to be one of those guys who stands out. But I tell you what, Deontay Johnson, after seeing what he did on special teams, I wonder if you'd probably see him on some run plays too, where you could create little matchups, get a little bit more creative on there. I mean, don't forget, Matt Canada too. He's going to have a say in this offense along with Randy Fiechner, I mean, as they are working around Ben Roethlisberger and just seeing where he's at. I mean, these are the things right now too. I mean, you talk about a lot of things that have been going into this for this season, the 2020 campaign, and so forth. And let's see else what we could come squadron up here as we look at it and see how this continues to work out for right now. Look at some more tweets and some reports from observations. Mark Cabali of The Athletic, he had some observations from today. I mean, of course, you heard ones about Ben Roethlisberger. It looked a little different, not necessarily off with his accuracy during the first practice, but he said it was just like Dan Marino delivery. Roethlisberger still as accurate as ever. He threw 3 arching passes in the corner of the end zone to Ryan Switzer, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool as the individual prior practice ended. And you got to believe, too, I mean, Switzer, who's going to his third year right now, you got to believe he's going to be asked to, step up to the plate. I mean, start elevating his game to a whole nother level. I mean, that's also been, another favorite receiver. Receiver / teammate, pretty much. Ben Roethlisberger, who's had a lot of support for and seems to like personally on this team. And you can definitely tell there's been some sort of bond formed ever since he came there. I mean, he came, I think, at the conclusion of the preseason from 2 years ago after they made all their cuts. And I think they acquired them via trade. But still, I mean, I think Switzer right now, this is a guy right now who realizes, this team to really be a success right now as we look at things and we try and figure out what's going to be the active thing for him. I mean, Switzer, at the end of the day, right now, as much as he has contributed, as we look at what he's been trying able to develop himself, right now, Switzer at this point, when playing on his team for right now, I mean, he knows he has to raise up a bit. I mean, the intensity has to be up a notch more. And as far as what he needs to do, because Ryan Switzer, at the end of the day, too, I mean, this guy from last year, too, when we look at it, he only had 8 receptions for 29 yards, but don't forget he was injured most of the year. Played in 9 games, had 8 punt return yards for 29 yards, and of course 9 kickoff returns for 166 yards. So this is a guy that was coming off hurt. Last season, I mean, former Cowboy who got taken in the 4th round of the 2017 draft. But I mean, this is a guy right now who is in the final year of his deal, and he'll be an unrestricted free agent in the 2021 season. So I think he's definitely got to prove he could definitely stay a lot more healthier. I'd be interested to see like how he was working out in the offseason and right now as he is in training camp right now, and see what kind of production that leads for the team for their long-term success. Again, if you guys want to join in here on the Metal Steel Podcast, you can definitely call in. You're more than welcome to hit the phone lines here. It's 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. You can follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, at Prodigy Richey. And for the Metal Steel Podcast on Twitter, it is at Men of Steel CGR, and on Instagram, at Men of Steel Nation. Let's continue to go on the observations too. I mean, one nice observation too that I liked that Kabali noticed was Zach Banner, and he described the term as hulked up for the second padded practice. I mean, this guy right here, I mean, who's basically taking on guys in one-on-one lineman drills. More specifically, he stonewalled Bud Dupree, Zach Banner, and he stymied Henry Mondo and rookie Carlos Davis, 2 large humans, as you wanted to quote. And he says, who knows what might have happened that we couldn't report on. I mean, this guy right here, I mean, Zach Banner, I mean, this is the guy right now who's coming in fired up right now. And I was hearing yesterday a little bit, I think it was Dale Lally and Matt Williamson. When you look at these guys and you take a look at that offensive line depth, I mean, for what they had to do, I mean, when we look at it and see what they're trying to do, because remember, you still got a guy like Chukwuma Okorafor right now who's going into his 3rd year. And, of course, you got Zach Banner right now, I mean, who's coming into this year for right now. And we look at the offensive line, who's definitely got to play with a chip on their shoulder. And Chooks right now, I mean, who is at left tackle, I mean, I'd be real interested to see how he's going to step forward. I mean, like what he's going to like be asked to for right now. And we'll see how that pans out, because I think he's supposed to be going to right tackle. I'm not sure. I forget exactly. But again, I mean, the interesting point they made out was that, remember, I mean, in these rookie contracts, I mean, when you're not that 1st round pick, your number 3 is especially where you want to see like more what these guys could start to do. I mean, how much more they're going to be capable of. So then they could get like a feel of like what they could prepare for the following season and next year, as a matter of fact. Because I gotta be honest with you, I think Chooks right now, I mean, this is a guy who right now who's kind of like at a fork in his world right now, where I feel like he feels like he needs to make something happen. I mean, I think this guy right here, at the end of the day, I think he wants to prove that he could be on his way here. He only played 7% of snaps last year and was only in for 1 game. But the year before, he was in 13 games, started 3 of them, and his offensive line percentage snap was 14%. He had 155 snaps versus 73. So that basically was cut in half, I mean, last season. And I got to believe right now, I mean, this guy right now, I mean, who's at 320 pounds, I mean, I'm really looking to see what he'll be able to continue to do for this team and how he'll be able to make the Steelers, give some more confidence to keep him around as part of this offensive line. They kind of go through somewhat of a rebuild, if you will, especially when you got like left guard. Ramon Foster retiring, which was like the biggest news right now. And right now they're saying that he must win the right tackle position. And you got Zach Banner, who's number 2 on that. Trooks is like number 2 in the left tackle depth. You got Andre False here, Fanside. I don't know if I'm saying that last name correctly. But for right now, it's looking Matt Fowler seems to be poised to replace Ramon Foster. And right tackle will have to be filled by Trooks or Zach. And we'll see what happens there. Because I think Zach Banner right now, too, for coming into this year, let's not forget, Zach Banner, who is coming into his 3rd season as well. A guy who came from the Browns and then with the Steelers 2 years later. He didn't play in 2018. But, still, this guy right here, I definitely feel like, he's waited just as long as a core for. If you're going to ask me, I probably have to, continue to see how this plays out. If there's anything for certain for right now, when you got, no preseason see how these guys will fit in the starting lineup or who's going to be filling in on the depth chart, I think you have to put a lot more emphasis on these simulated games real quick, going up against your own team, and we'll see how that translates. I feel for right now, when we look at it here, let's find out how everything shakes up, especially when it's no preseason. We cannot emphasize that enough, how plans have kind of been altered, but at the same time, too, the standard is the standard, as Mike Tomlin will continue to remind us for right now. And let's keep rolling here. Another observation, too, by Kabali. Let's see. As far as getting inside linebackers cover running backs out of the backfield, it seems to be like Ulysses Gilbert showed his coverage abilities in a couple situations where he was able to trail the speedy care of a White running back between the hash marks stride for stride and made an acrobatic interception on the ball thrown by Paxton Lynch that bounced off White's hands. Moments later on, Gilbert also made a diving pass breakup near the sideline on a throw intended for Jalen Samuels. So, Gilbert right there, that's another interesting thing right there. Trying to see how they get some guys to get some pass coverage. Because you definitely got to believe right now, Devin Bush right now, who's going into the 2nd year, number 10 overall pick in the 1st round of the draft, the Steelers got. You got to believe, he's in the all-time highs of highs right now, going into his 2nd year. Going to be the guy quarterbacking that defense, more than likely help calling the plays and see what kind of field day they're able to do right there, because I definitely feel like Bush right there, he's going to get more better, not just the run, but I think he's another guy too, I think, who could help play alongside Ulysses Gilbert. They could be a nice little tandem that they want as far as pass coverage situations right there, dropping back into those situations. And I just feel like Devin Bush right there, he's the guy who's going to be more agile and more flexible for this time. And we'll see how that continues to pan off for right now for this season as we look at it. So how do you feel, Steeler Nation, right now, given everything that we just went over right now? Just knowing, the signs right there. And I love the fact, too, that call it Dan Marino, with his throws. The only thing I would probably just be a little bit more hesitant on the side of caution is that with Ben Roethlisberger throwing it like that, and to see him throwing with that much energy, is he going to once again be putting pressure on that throwing elbow? Is he going to overexert himself? I mean, I'm glad he's in a happier spot, and he seems to be doing it with a lot more excitement. But how much concern do you have about this guy? I mean, aside from seeing this guy in practice, do you feel like, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, where you want him to just kind of take it easy just a little bit and really got to trust, like, like his teammates around him, the skilled players they got, and come up with some creative plays? I mean, that's my biggest thing here with Ben. I think Ben, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a guy who definitely feels like he has to shoulder a lot of the wagon here. But at the same time, too, I mean, you don't want to be in a situation where you're also being that same guy losing the game. And Ben Roethlisberger, as great as he is, I mean, he still makes the mistakes, turning over balls at the wrong time. I mean, this is a guy, too. I mean, you got to do a better job and make sure we're not, like blasting guys right away. I mean, if you do, I mean, just keep it on the field and off the media like we last seen. I'm happy he's practicing, but at the same time, too, there's still a little bit of a trend with how he's been viewed as a leader. It's always been mixed results with this guy as far as being a leader in that locker room and be a voice for that team. I mean, some people may look at, well, he's earned that right because based off his experience of being one of many people to win 2 Super Bowls and being like the only guy pretty much on that team right now who has had any rings to these guys 0. I mean, as part of like that Steeler unit from the last 2 out of 3 Super Bowls that were won. I just feel you have to be a little bit more concerned with that and see what happens too. And also too, you had Stephon Tuitt. He was also talking with the media today regarding Cam Hayward. He was asked about Cam Hayward and his contract situation right now, and basically just leave it up between him and his agent. And also, too, Stephon Tuitt, too, he said his pectoral muscle is growing stronger than before. I mean, he has spoken with Cam, who has similar injury, about the recovery process. But like I said, Stephon Tuitt right now, I mean, this is a guy, too, I mean, who's also had like who's been taken care of nicely by the Steelers. I mean, he's another guy who seemed to be a little bit of a question mark ever since getting his money deal. And as we look at right there, and this guy who actually signed his extension back in 2017, I mean, he's only gotten as highest as 5.5 sacks, which was a year later back in 2018. And he was still able to career high in tackles for loss. Second highest was 7, but 8 was in his first year of his deal. Stephon Tuitt right now, I mean, he's got at least about 3 more seasons before he becomes unrestricted free agent. And I do believe this is a guy right now, it's another guy right now, he knows what's been paid on him. He knows what he needs to do and try and trust these guys. But for right now, like I said, with all the uncertain with the salary cap, with the drop, you have to kind of just play with what you got, deal with the cards that are dealt, and just make all the moves and just go for broke this year. Just realize how much longer you're going to have this special unit around you and see where it leads. As I'm telling you right now, I definitely do feel like, I mean, aside from Ben Roethlisberger, he's got a guy who plays with chip on his shoulder. So let's get right into it. I'm just going to go in with one topic, fair or foul topic for the day, for this day of the Men of Steel podcast as we get ready to get into it. As we look at too, and also by the way too, I also tweet out that Benny Snell has also cut down more weight as this was part of a team plan right there. He dropped 12 pounds, so he shed from 224 to 212 pounds. And Deontay Johnson also did some work. So fair or foul topic number one. Fair or foul topic only for the day. Benny Snell, or let's see, for this one, Benny Snell will have a better season and production than Deontay Johnson. I will probably say foul on that one for right now. I think Deontay Johnson is going to still be that guy. He's going to be the spotlight. Deontay Johnson, who has made an all-pro team in his first season. And we'll see what he does for right now. But I got to tell you, guy who I believe is going to be a lot more impactful on the special teams. He's had, 59 receptions for 680 yards, 5 touchdowns being caught. And, of course, he had, he was all on punt return duty where he averaged 12.4 yards per return. Longest one being the 85-yard touchdown they returned against the Cardinals. So that's going to do it for this edition today of the Men of Steel podcast. I just want to say thank you for those of you joining. Please feel free to check me out on my Twitter feed as I am definitely keeping you updated best I could with everything. Thank you very much, everybody, for the follows. You can follow me on Twitter once again for the Men of Steel podcast at Men of Steel CGR, on Instagram at Men of Steel Nation. You can also follow me primarily Charles Prodigy Richey at Prodigy Richey. As always, leave you. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. I gone.